Welcome back to another video. In this objective, Objective 5.2, we're going to talk about creating and managing Active Directory users and computers. So let's start with the basics. Let's just talk about user accounts in general. We have basically two types of user accounts. One is going to be a local user, and that is used for local logon. As you can see on the left-hand side, every computer and server starts out with a local security account manager, also called the SAM. And when we log in, like as the administrator of the computer or the first account that's created on the laptop or computer, what we're doing is we're locally authenticating. Now to the right, what we have is a domain user. And when we actually log on to a domain, like user@kintoso.com, what we're doing is we're actually authenticating against Active Directory. Now we're going to focus mainly on domain users and not local logons. So let's talk about some of the security guidelines before we get on with domain accounts and well, this is just good security guidelines. And I follow these security guidelines whenever I put up or stand up a server. First thing, or a domain, first thing is the administrator account. We are always going to rename the administrator account because guess what? Everybody knows that if there's a domain, there's going to be an account called administrator. So we rename it. We also set a strong password. Now, usually I'll go out to a random password generator and generate a 20-character password, write it down, because this comes to the next point. We should have limited knowledge of the administrator password. It should be locked away and never used. You should create accounts and make people accountable of their own accounts. And this falls to the next thing, which is do not use administrator accounts for daily tasks. It's just good general practice. Now, guest accounts, generally we do not enable the guest account, but if we do, we should always rename the guest account and also set a strong password. Now let's talk about some of the user creation tools. Some of the GUI tools for creating a single user is the ADAC. Now we've seen popularity with the ADAC and Microsoft when 2008 first came out. The Active Directory Administrative Center is the preferred tool now. All the features are getting built into that, like the recycle bin for Active Directory, and there's a wealth of others. I can't think of them off the top of my head right now. The other is our tried and true Active Directory users and computers. I sometimes call it the ADUC, and way we create accounts in there is just the same way we've been creating them since Windows 2000. Now I'm going to show you in one of the labs something called user templates. That's creating a user, however, not actually enabling it, and we just copy that user over and over again. Some of the other tools that we can use, and these are the command line tools for user creation, is DSadd. When you install the RSAT tools, you automatically get all of the DS commands, and one is DSadd. Another is Windows PowerShell, and we're going to actually look at a couple PowerShell statements, and also I'm going to show you that in a lab. The other is something called CSVDE, and this is Comma Separated Value Directory Exchange, and it's a great tool to both import new accounts and also export accounts. And I promise you I'm going to go through some labs with that. The last tool is LDIFDE, and it's not commonly used. However, if you do have to change values on a whole bunch of accounts, LDIFDE is the only tool that will allow you to actually make those changes in bulk. So this stands for, of course, LDAP, Data Interchange Format Directory Exchange. And try and say that fast 5 times. Now, let's talk a little bit about computer accounts. I always talk about trusts. There is a trust relationship here. And I promise you, we'll talk about domain trusts at some point in one of the videos. But there is a trust that happens. When you join a computer to the domain, What you're actually doing is telling the domain to trust the computer account. And the reason why we're trusting the computer account is so that the computer account can actually log into the domain. And you know, at first glance, you don't really see this, but it's actually going on. And that's the whole relevance of creating a computer account. It's creating a trust relationship with the computer and the domain so that the computer can come in and authenticate. Now, just like a user authenticates when a computer starts up, it authenticates into the domain. Let's talk a little bit about creating computer accounts. Well, the computer creation tools pretty much the same as we've seen for user creation tools. There's the Active Directory Users and Computers, the Active Directory Administrative Center, and we can pre-stage accounts here. What I mean by pre-stage is we can create the account before we actually install the computer account and join it to the domain. Of course, the dsadd command, an example of this is dsadd computer, and then the computer's DN or distinguished name. Of course, we have Windows PowerShell. That's going to be new-AD computer-name, the computer name, the path, and of course the distinguished name. We can also join a domain by using the netdom command, and this would be just simply netdom join computer name / domain, the domain name, / the user that you're going to join it with, / the password that you're going to join it with for that user. And then we can also specify an organizational unit. Now, this is not a commonly known thing, but it does show up in the book. It's actually showed up in the book since, oh gosh, since Windows 2003. But by default, every user is allowed to join up to 10 computers, even if the user is not a privileged user. The user does not have to be an administrator or a domain admin or any of that. Every user gets to join 10 computer accounts. So the right can actually be seen here. It's in the default domain controller GPO. And there's actually TechNet articles on how to disallow people that are non-privileged from joining computers to the domain. And there's some TechNet articles. I'll post it down in the comments section below. But this is just a little factoid. Don't know that I've ever seen a test question on it on any of the exams, but it is good to know for working knowledge. Now there's another feature called offline domain join, and I've actually used this. We actually had this working. When you need to join a computer that is off-site and will never come on site, but you need to join it because, well, in my case, I needed it to authenticate with the firewall and advanced security, and I wanted it to authenticate its account before I would actually let it connect in. So the first thing that you do is on a tech computer with access to Active Directory, you'll type in the command djoin /provision /domain, of course the domain name, / the computer name, and then what you'll do is you'll save it out to a file. Now you'll transfer that file to the computer to be joined, and then on that computer to be joined, you'll initiate a djoin /request odj offline domain join /load file, and you'll basically load that file that you exported off of a computer with access to AD, and then you'd tell it the Windows path to the system root, and then local OS. And voila, you now have an offline domain join computer. Now, a little factoid here. Most people think that you have to, have a computer see the domain every so often, otherwise it falls off. Totally untrue. Untrue whatsoever. The fact behind it, or the myth behind it, is that when computers are not actively participating in the domain, sometimes us administrators either overwrite the computer account or screw up its credentials, and that's where that myth comes in. Now on a domain, and of course it's not part of the lecture or the objective, but on a domain, your computer account will automatically, when it has access to the domain, that is, will automatically reset its password every 30 days. So it cycles its password every 30 days. Again, myth that if a computer is not joined to a domain, or if it's joined to a domain but offline, it's going to, get out of sync. Totally untrue. So managing disabled accounts. When an account is disabled, like a user or a computer, it restricts that object from being used for authentication. So if a computer account is disabled, right, like we've seen in the prior slide, it can no longer be trusted to come in to authenticate and allow users to log on to the domain from that computer. Now, there's a couple PowerShell commands here to help you manage disable accounts. First is disable-ad account-identity, and then of course the account name, and then enable AD account, and then the -identity and the account name. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I got lots of labs for Objective 5.2 to follow. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments section below, Facebook, Google+, or Twitter. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And as always, I thank you for watching.